Hello, this is Mr. Henry, and welcome to lesson 4.5. Today we're going to talk about graphing using something called slope-intercept form. The essential question today says, how do I graph linear equations in slope-intercept form? We have a couple get-the-goofs down here, so let's get started. So if you remember in our last lesson, we talked about finding slope, and the first thing we had to do is we had to find two intersections. Here's one, and here's one. So we're doing problem A here. And we use this formula, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's how we found slope. Okay, so let's go ahead and label these points. So this point here has an x and y coordinate. So x coordinate of -1, a y coordinate of +2. This guy has an x coordinate of +1, +2, +3, and a y coordinate of 1, 2, 3. And x value, y value, x value, y value, and I'll just call this one the first one. So these are x1 and y1. This is the second one, x2, y2. So now if we plug that information into our formula here, so we're still doing letter A, let's see, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 minus a -1 is 4. So this guy, letter A, actually has a slope of 1/4. And you could double check it, so going from one point to the next, you would go up 1 over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1 over 2 over 3, and if there's another line here, it'd be crossing right there. So that is the formula and the slope for letter A. Okay, let's do letter B. Letter B is this second line here, so let's find some crisscrosses. There's one, and it looks like there's one there as well. So let's see, this point and this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and label them and give them their coordinates and stuff. So this guy has a coordinate of 0, 1. This guy has a coordinate of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. x1, y1, x2, y2. So I call this the first point and this the second one. So we say 0 minus 1 over 5 minus 0. I'll change that color, make it a little bit easier to see. There we go. And 0 minus 1 is -1. 5 minus 0 is 5. So this guy has a slope of -1/5, not 1/6. -1/5. And as a reminder, you know it's negative because it is going downhill. If you're a man or a woman walking on this line, if you're walking this way, you're going downhill. If you're on the other line, letter A, and you're walking across this line, you'd be going uphill. So this is positive, this is negative. And letter C, the answer we have is undefined. Let's see. Find 2 points. Well, there's one, so I'll use those two. This is 1, -1, -2, -3. And this is 2, -3. x1, y1, x2, y2. So we take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 gives you 0 over 1, which is not undefined. Undefined happens if you take something divided by 0. Here, 0 divided by 1 is actually just 0. So this guy has a slope of 0. And our little man walking across this line would not be going up or down. He's walking flat. Undefined, for those who remember, is actually a straight up and down line. So I can actually make this, I'll make this line undefined to show. This line would be undefined. Because if you're trying to walk across this line, you're going to fall off and go splat. You can't walk across this line. You can't go up, you can't go down, you can't go sideways. So this line is undefined. Okay? So we have a couple vocabulary words here. First of them is slope-intercept form. I mean, that's what this lesson's all about. So, slope-intercept form looks like that. Y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Also, later on in the lesson, we'll be talking about something, we'll be trying to identify if two lines are parallel, and you have to know that parallel means that two lines have the same slope. I mean, you might have remembered parallels being like two lines that never intersect. They kind of go the same direction, like train tracks. Well, those two lines that go the same direction, they have the same slope. So if one of them has a really steep slope, the other has a steep slope. If one's kind of shallow, the other's shallow. You'll never see two lines that are parallel that have different slopes. So those guys have different slopes. Eventually, this guy, if I can draw straight, is going to cross over that guy someplace. It's only parallel if they have the exact same slope, which means they would never intersect, never crisscross. So, let's find some slopes and intercepts. So here I'm giving you a line. It says it wants us to identify the slope and y-intercept of the line with the given equation. So it gives us an equation here. We want to find slope and intercept. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is get the y variable by itself. We want the equation to look like y equals. Like this one already is. This is y equals. Now when you have it as y equals, the x term, this number is your slope. So the slope here is 3. This term, which does not have a variable, is your y-intercept. So this line has a slope of 3 and an intercept of 4. So if we were just playing pretend here and we wanted to graph this, this line would cross the y-axis at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It would have a slope of 3. So you go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. That's about what this line would look like. So we found the y-intercept and the slope. Now in letter B here, you see this equation, the y variable, is not by itself already, which means we've got a little bit of work to do. So to solve for y, this is the variable, we've got to get rid of this guy. So we're going to subtract 3x. Remember when we did this back in chapter 3, solving for a variable, we did. So we minus 3x, so 3x minus 3x cancels. Here, these guys, you cannot do the math. They don't have the same variable, which means they're not alike. And to make this easier for us, we're going to put the x term first. And it is a positive 2. Now look at that. We could write this as y equals mx plus b. This is your slope. This is your intercept. So the slope for this line is negative 3. The intercept is 2. So your goal is to get the equation into y equals, make it look like this. That is slope-intercept form. Now it's called that because this number is the slope. This is the intercept. So it's called slope-intercept form. And that's actually the only two pieces of information you need to graph a line. You need one point and to know how steep the line is. So we've done 2 examples here. I'd like you to copy these down, pause the video, try these 2 problems out if you can. When you're ready to go over a problem, hit play, and we'll go over them together. Okay, so let's see. First thing we want to do is get the y variable by itself. So there are no parentheses, there's no like terms, I don't have the same variable on both sides. Get rid of the add and subtract. So I minus x. 3y equals a negative x plus 9. Alright, after getting rid of adds and subtracts, we get rid of multiplies and divides. We're going to divide by 3 to get rid of a times by 3. We get y equals. Now, remember this guy? This means there's negative 1x. Well, we can't actually divide this. It doesn't come out to a nice pretty number. So what we're going to do is leave this as a fraction. Negative 1/3, or just negative 1 divided by 3x. This does divide evenly, 3. So my equation, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3, this has a slope of negative 1/3. That's the slope. It has a y-intercept of positive 3. Slope-intercept form. Letter D, let's see, solving for y. There are no parentheses. There are no like terms on either side. I don't have a y variable on both sides. Getting rid of adds and subtracts. There's nothing being added or subtracted. Get rid of multiplies and divides. That's a times by negative 2, so I divide by negative 2. 4 divided by negative 2. Now, we don't write that as a fraction because that can actually divide. 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 12 divided by negative 2 is a positive 6. So now we have our equation in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept. Now, we're going to be able to use this information and do kind of the same idea. We're going to take an equation, find the slope, find the intercept, and now the next thing we're going to add is we're actually going to graph that line. So here we have letter A. Graph 2x plus y equals 3. Okay. So the first thing we got to do is we got to make this thing look like slope-intercept form. So we want y equals mx plus b. We don't have it yet. So let's see here. Well, we need to solve this thing for y. There are no parentheses, there's no like terms, no same variable on both sides. Get rid of the adds and subtracts. These cancel. Y equals negative 2x plus 3. We have this now in slope-intercept form. That's SI form, slope-intercept form. Looks like that. And that's what we have. So the slope is negative 2. The intercept is a positive 3. So we can use just these two pieces of information and we can make a line up here. So we're going to start at the y-intercept. The y-intercept here is 3, which means this line is going to cross the y-axis at 3. So you put a dot there. That is the y-intercept. Now we say this line has a slope of negative 2. Slopes are much better if they are fractions. So I'm going to turn this 2 into a fraction by putting it as 2 over 1. If you remember, the way to turn any whole number into a fraction is by putting it over 1. Now look at what this says. Remember that slope was the change in y over the change in x? This says we're going to go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. And anytime you go over, we go over that way. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Notice how all my points are in a nice straight line. So this is this line. Let's see how well I can make this. Not too shabby. Okay, so this is the graph of this line. We solved for y to make it look like slope-intercept form. Y equals slope x plus intercept. The intercept was 3. The slope was negative 2. We graph this line by first putting a point at the y-intercept. That tells us where to start. Then we move the way the slope tells us to move. The slope said we go down 2 over 1. So we went down 2 over 1. And repeat that over and over until you run out of space. Those straight points make your line. Okay, let's bring letter B out and do the same thing. I'm going to erase this stuff in the middle so I have space to do letter B. We'll leave him up there, though. Okay, so we want to graph this equation. So first things first, we write down the equation. It says 2x minus y equals 5. Now, we want to get the y variable by itself. There are no parentheses. There are no like terms to combine on either side. There are no same variable on both sides of the equal sign. There is adding and subtracting. So to get rid of this 2x, I am not going to add it. This does not say minus 2x. This 2x is positive. It's a negative y. So the way we get rid of a positive 2x is we subtract 2x on both sides. So these cancel out. We get negative y equals negative 2x plus 5. Now to get rid of this negative 1y. We cannot leave it like this. We have to get rid of this negative. So we divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. We get y equals negative 2 divided by negative 1 is a positive 2. And positive 5 divided by negative 1 is a negative 5. So now we have y equals, this is slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept. The intercept is the negative 5. So let's graph. So first thing we do is we find our y-intercept. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5 is the y-intercept, and the slope is 2. Now, again, as a fraction, this is 2 over 1. Change in y, change in x. So we're going to go positive 2 in y, positive 1 in x. Positive 2y, positive 1x. Positive 2y, positive 1x. And now we make our line. By the way, we do put the arrowheads on the ends of the line because this line does technically continue forever in a straight line, forever and ever and ever and ever. We're just graphing it on the little bit of space we have, but if we made this graph space bigger, it would keep going and going and going and going. So you put your arrowheads to show that this is just a section of this overall line. Okay, I'm going to give you one problem to try here. This is letter C. Please go copy it down, take a second, do it, follow the same steps we've been doing. Solve it for y, find the slope, find the intercept, plot a point at the y-intercept, move the way the slope tells you to move, and then connect your dots. Pause the video, do the problem. When you're ready, hit play and we'll go through it together. Okay, so let's see here. We want x plus 2y equals 4, and we want to solve for y. We want y equals. That's our goal. Y equals something, x plus something. So, no parentheses, no like terms, no variable on both sides. Get rid of the add and subtract. These cancel out. We get 2y equals negative x plus 4. Get rid of the multiply and divide, so we divide by 2. These cancel. Y equals. Now remember, this negative 1x divided by 2. If you take negative 1 divided by 2, you get a decimal. We do not want a decimal. In terms of slope, we'd always rather have a fraction. So we're going to leave it as negative 1/2. Negative 1 divided by 2, negative 1 divided by 2, x plus, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now we have our slope, and we have our intercept. Let us graph. So the intercept is positive 2, so we put a dot on the y-axis at 2. Now, some people get themselves confused with this slope thing, especially when there's a negative. They don't know if the negative, if it's like the negative 1 over 2 like this, or if it's a 1 over negative 2 like that, or if the negative's out front, how to treat it. Here's my recommendation. Here's how I always do this. I always think of the negative as being on the top. If there's one negative, put it up top. Now this tells you you're going to go down 1 and then over 2. Down 1 and y over 2 and x. Down 1 and y over 2 and x. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Always put that negative up top, and it's just going to save you a lot of trouble. You don't have to remember a couple different rules. You have one rule to remember, and it's simple. Now we have our points. Let's make a line. Arrowhead, arrowhead. It keeps going forever. Simple enough. Now we have a couple more problems to try. These come from the textbook. They come from page 244 and 245, numbers 1 through 4. The first 3 problems you see here, we just have to find the slope and y-intercept. You don't have to graph it. Number 4, you have to graph it, and there is no space on the graph on the note sheet, so maybe a separate sheet of paper, a little piece of scrap paper, someplace like that, and a piece of graph like this should be sufficient. So go ahead, do the problems. When you're ready, hit play, and we'll go through them together. Okay, let's do it. This guy's already set as y equals, which makes our life easy. So the slope and y-intercept is what we want to find. We're just going to cheat here a little bit. Pop this here and pop this here. All right, now we've cheated a little bit. The slope here is 5. Slope-intercept. The intercept is -3. You do need the negative to go with it. Here, we can't tell just by looking at it. You can't say slope is 3 and y-intercept is 12 because that's wrong. You have to get the y variable by itself first. So I've got some like scratched paper down here. So 3x minus 3y equals 12. Get the y by itself. So I'm going to start by subtracting 3x. We get -3y equals -3x plus 12. And now we need to divide by -3. Divide by -3. That was a little sloppy. Let me fix that up. Divide by -3. All right, -3 divided by -3 is 1. 12 divided by -3 is a -4. So from this solving, we got y equals, the slope is 1, the y-intercept is a -4. Okay, number 3. X plus 4y equals 6. We do not have y equals, so let's get that. I'm going to subtract x to both sides. These cancel. We get 4y equals -x plus 6. Divide by 4, cancel. Divide by 4, y equals, this will not divide evenly. -1 divided by 4, we're going to leave as a fraction. -1 divided by 4x. Put the negative up top like that. And 6 divided by 4 again does not give us a whole number, so leave it as a fraction. Simplified, 6 over 4 can simplify to 3 over 2. So the slope is going to be a -1/4, and the y-intercept is going to be 3 over 2. Not the easiest thing in the world to graph, but we don't have to graph it. Number 4. We actually have to graph this one. So we're going to find our slope-intercept. Slope is -2. This guy's already set up as y equals, which is, that saves us some time, saves us some trouble. So slope-intercept. So the intercept is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The slope is -2. That means, as a fraction, -2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Okay, and then we connect the points together, and that's our line. So the major part of this lesson has been taking the equation and setting it up as y equals. If you can do that, the rest of the problem is pretty easy. Once it looks like y equals, like this slope-intercept form, then you find the slope, you find the intercept, you plot the intercept, and then move to find your next slope points, and then you graph it. The last thing we're looking at here today is we're going to identify if lines are parallel. Now remember what we said at the beginning of the lesson in the vocabulary. We said parallel means that two lines have the same slope. Their slopes are identical. Well, that means that what we need to do here is we're going to find the slope of all three of these lines and see which ones are the same. Okay? So let's start with letter A. So I'm going to write down the slope formula. So slope is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's find some points. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. I'm going to pick this one. Nah, we'll do it above. Whoa, big circle. I'm going to pick this one and that one, just because I like numbers close to 0. So this has the point -1, comma, -1. This has the point 2, comma, 0. x1, y1, x1, y... Ooh, this is x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 0 minus a -1 turns into +1, and 2 minus a -1 turns into +1. We got a slope of 1/3. Okay. Letter B. So formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. There's a point. There's a point. Those look like are only two. All right, so let's see. This guy has the values of 0, comma, -1, -2, -3. This guy has the points of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, comma, -1. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's see. y2 minus y1 over x2. Ooh, it's a 5, not a 3. Make that smaller. Okay. See, that's equal sign. See, when I erased it, it made me sloppy. Alright, so -1 minus -3, good, over x2 minus x1. -1 minus a -3, well, minus a negative turns into plus a positive, which turns this into 2 over, and 5 minus 0 is 5. Does not simplify, so that is not the slope. I'm sorry, that's the slope. So now we just got to figure out if letter C is more like A or B. So C, we got our slope, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, got some points. There's one, there's one, there's one, and that looks like it. I'm going to pick these 2 points. This is the point -1, -2, comma, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And this guy has the point of +1, comma, -1, 2, 3, 4. x1, y1, x2, y2. So our slope is going to be -4 minus -5 over x2 minus x1. Negative 4 minus a negative 5 makes this positive 1, and 1 minus a negative 2 becomes a 3. And that means those two are alike, so A and C are parallel, B is not. A lot of work for one problem, but the work was not hard. In each problem, all we did was we found the slope using that same formula. We found 2 points on the line, labeled it as x1, y1, and x2, y2, plugged those values into the formula, did the math, and then we just saw which two were equal. Okay? So we did letter A together. I'd like you to try letter C. I'm sorry, letter B here. So in this problem, pause the video, try this out. Find the slope of these lines. Then say which two are similar, and then when you're ready, hit play, and we'll go through it together. Okay, so let's see here. Letter B. So we're going to find the slope of A, B, and C. So slope m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to cheat because we have to do the same thing a couple different times. So no use me writing it a bazillion times. How about that? Now, letter A. Let's see. We've got crisscrosses there and there. Letter B, we've got there and there and there. Letter C, we've got there and there. I think that's what I see. Okay, let's check. Letter A. This point is at 0, 3. This point is at 3, 1. x1, y1, x2, y2. That gives us y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, giving us negative 2 over 3. Okay? That doesn't simplify, so that would be the slope of line A. Line B. Makes no difference. We use the same couple points if you want. This guy here and this guy here. So this guy's at 0, 1. This guy's at 3, negative 1. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so let's see. y2 minus y1 y2 minus y1, okay, yeah, over x2 minus x1. Negative 1 minus 1 is a negative 2. 3 minus 0 is 3. Hey, look at that. These two are already the same. But I don't know if letter C might be parallel to those two as well. So let's just see here. Letter C. These are the 2 points we got. So this guy and this guy. This guy is at negative 1, 2, 3, negative 4, 0. This guy's at 0, 1, 2, negative 3. x1, y1, x2, y2, giving us negative 3 minus 0 over 0 minus negative 4. And that math is negative 3. That math, 0 minus a negative is plus a positive. 4, nah. Negative 3/4 is not the same as negative 2/3, so A and B are parallel, C is not. Last problem for the day comes from the textbook. This is page 246, number 7. It says here, determine which lines are parallel. And it gives you line A and a couple of points that go with line A, line B and a couple of points, and line C and a couple of points. Go ahead, pause the video right now, figure out which two are parallel, and hit play when you're ready to continue, and we'll go through it together. Okay, so let's see here. Line A. So we got A. Well, I don't know how we'll do it. A's here, though. Got m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, x1, y1, x2, y2. So we've got 4 minus 2 over 3 minus negative 1. That gives us 4 minus 2 is 2. 3 minus a negative is plus a positive is 4, and that simplifies to 1/2. B. x1, y1, x2, y2. So okay, so we've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 8 minus 4 is 4. 5 minus 3 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so these are not the same. Letter C. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let's see, we've got x and y, x and y. So we have 2 minus negative 2 over negative 1 minus negative 9. 2 minus negative 2 is no, it's positive. That's a positive 4 because keep flip change, positive. Okay, negative 1 plus a positive 9 gives us a positive 8. This simplifies to 1/2, which means A and C are parallel. So this was a lot of practice of finding slope, a major thing in algebra. In the summary box of your note sheet, could you answer this one question, please? It says, how do you graph lines in slope-intercept form? What things do you look at? How do you know where to put your points on the graph? How do you graph those lines? Go ahead and put down a couple of thoughts. When you're ready, hit play, and we'll go through it together. Okay? So probably what you remembered, hopefully, was to graph these lines first, write the equation as slope-intercept form. So first, solve for y. Make y equals mx plus b. So you want it to look like that. So that's solving for y. Then we graph the slope. We graph the y-intercept. So you graph that y-intercept, that b thing, on the y-axis. So there's a point right there. Finally, move how the slope tells you to move. So if the slope was like negative 3 over 4, that means you'd go, from this point, you'd go down 1, down 2, down 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4. And repeat, down 1, down 2, down 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4. And graph your line. That's how you graph using slope-intercept form. Okay, homework. Comes from page 247, 248. I have here 3 through 36 multiples of 3, and this is just kind of listing the multiples of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, continue on like that. You'll see some of them are just finding slope and intercept without graphing. Some of them involve graphing. Some of them involve finding if lines are parallel or not. Hope you've enjoyed. This has been lesson 4.5. Bye-bye.